Well, all right. Good evening, my friends. This has been a very tumultuous few weeks, and I want to thank everybody who listens to the show for your perseverance, for getting in there and listening to 4 hours for the past two Friday nights of a very groundbreaking show and an important show. I want to just thank all of you very much for your support. I think it's important that we ask questions about things. That's always been my motivation, and I want to be very candid with you. In my experience in this, I have made mistakes. I will continue to make mistakes. And that is something that I hope all of us can be humble enough to admit. But I truly feel that my guest for the past 3 weeks now added something very important to the topic. We have had a story that for the past few decades has imprinted itself on all of our minds. And I think that all of us who come into this want to truly believe in things, but as we get handed lesson after lesson, sometimes we have to step back and look at the facts of the matter. And as we know, in the UFO community, that's a hard task, but hopefully you will go over the show time and time again, pick out little bits of information, and then make logical and informed decisions. So that is my hope. I hope that you can go to UFOclassified.com, subscribe to the channel, support the show on patreon.com. And I also want to just say that I reached out to Peter Robbins this afternoon to see if he would come on the show, and he very respectfully and politely declined. So hopefully in the future we can have a dialogue. But as you know, we have been interviewing a fellow by the name of Ryan Gordon, and Ryan has worked with Travis and Mike Rogers in the past, and he has come forward with some information. This is the first time in the history of the Walton case that Travis has ever spoken publicly about the theory to include all of the work of Phil Klass. In the past couple weeks, we have witnessed a group of people that are supporters of Travis and friends of Travis come forward and say that Mike Rogers is suffering from dementia, which to me is a little alarming to have somebody make that diagnosis on the air. But I want to just say that I feel this is very, very important, just as my guest Scott, or my co-host Scott. I'm telling you, Scott, are we just tired tonight? This has been a marathon. Oh, how are you holding up?
I'm better than I think I was last week.
Yeah, well, you know what, I wanted to say thank you. We've had such a great, this has been a bonding experience for sure. And, you were the one who talked to Ryan and arranged this, and it has been nonstop ever since. And so I really appreciate all that you do, and I appreciate the beautiful graphics that you add and the intelligence that you bring to this topic. I really have a lot of respect for you. So thank you.
Thank you, too.
Absolutely. And so we are going to add Ryan Gordon to the stream, and Ryan is quite controversial as of now, but he has presented evidence that I find very hard to refute. And he has been more than willing to talk with me hour after hour to show me things, to walk through things, and he was not going to appear on the show again. And then I spent hours and hours talking with him and saying, you know what, I think that there are some unanswered questions and we have to just answer them, get that out there. I invite people in chat to be respectful and ask questions, and I will say that Ryan is going to present some facts for us tonight and a slideshow, and I want to make sure that we are just moving through that. And if you have questions, then we will be addressing those if it doesn't pertain to what he's talking about at the Q&A discussion at the end of the show. And so, Ryan, thank you so much for being here, and how are you holding up through all this?
Oh, first, thank you so much for having me back. It's nice to see you both again. I first want to send a special shout out to my mother and father actually watching this evening. I think that's really cool.
That's awesome.
And I appreciate them always being a supporter of what I do. I've been holding up just fine. My mom has certainly taught me to be a trooper.
That is,
So
that's good.
No,
That's good.
I'm fine. I'm very thankful for the different people that have reached out to me, the compliments on my research, and that have wanted to chat.
Well, and I just want to say, I think Scott and I both agree on this, that you have presented so much more than anybody actually I've ever seen that has come forward with evidence. I mean, all of this wonderful video, audio, you've gone over all of the reports, video interviews over the years, and not to mention the fact that you actually have had personal experiences with Mike and Travis, and that's very
I
important. That is much more than 99.9% of the people who are weighing in on this can say, and that means a lot. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, and so let's just talk about a little bit, and I'm hoping that everybody here has been watching these hours of interviews. If not, you've got some homework tonight. But I wanted to say that, there is a group of people supporting Travis, as we would expect. And they have attempted to kind of derail the research and tell people that Gentry Tower is something that can be seen from Turkey Springs. And I want to have you kind of open us up, give us a little bit of rundown on that, and then we will address that question.
Sure. So can we just start right back with the screen share again? Okay, so let's start here, and this is a slide that I showed about 2 weeks ago. I'm unsure why this group has come out with a theory that our folks could see Gentry Lookout Tower from Turkey Springs being the job site where Travis and crew had their contract. This is the slide. This is how everything happened here. You cannot see Gentry Tower from Turkey Springs, to be clear. I never said that. Nobody in this podcast has said that. I don't know where that originated from. And to think that somebody could see roughly 5 miles through a forest of trees, I'm really shocked that they thought that people would actually believe that. I don't know where that came from. But to go over this again, this is the area, the slide that's on the screen here. This is the area of Gentry Lookout Tower, going back and following my mouse cursor here. The road that is here in front, this is called Rim Road, Highway 300, and the direction here headed west. Again, Mike Rogers' truck stopped here. This is where I was showed that the truck had stopped. And what we're seeing from this angle, roughly 100 feet, is looking through a forest where we see the tops of the trees glowing. We see an object hovering above the tree line that anybody would stop and stare and wonder, what in the heck is that? At this perspective, this very orchestrated perspective, there is nobody that would think that this is a lookout tower. It most definitely, and without exception, gives people a reason to pause and stare. So again, we have the truck parked here, pretty dense forest in between the truck and Gentry. And how the story goes, and I 100% have no reason to believe it, or excuse me, to doubt it, is Travis jumps out of the car in an orchestrated event that we hear Mike Rogers explain to me, and runs up to Gentry. Immediately, we have somebody standing on the edge right here with a light, a carbide light, for those folks that are familiar with carbide lanterns, and shines a blue beam directly down on Travis. At that point, everybody in the truck just screams and hauls butt out of there. I want to be really clear that, and the best example that was offered me was an elevator. And if you have a bunch of folks in an elevator, if you know them or not, doesn't really matter, and somebody screams fire, everybody's going to panic. And that's exactly what happened in this truck. Again, we learned from Mike Rogers that this was an orchestrated event, and the total time that the witnesses saw this was roughly 10 to 15 seconds. This was not a long, drawn-out event. This was pulling up, Travis getting out, all the guys screaming, "Get back in the car," or "Get back in the truck, you're crazy," and leaving. Before we move on to the next question, one more comment. It's been brought up, why didn't the guys get out of the truck and follow Travis? I can only speculate, because even as the story as told in Fire in the Sky, nobody got out of the truck except for Travis. But in this instance, whether you read the book, whether you listen to testimony, or you watch the movie, all of the guys are terrified. They're screaming for him to get back in the truck, and they leave. So to clear that up, no, you cannot see Gentry Tower from Turkey Springs, the job site. And I hope that clears some air. Nor also could you see the the searchlight from Turkey Springs either. There's no rational reason why somebody would be shining a searchlight towards Turkey Springs.
And so let me just ask you, because of course, we've been monitoring different shows over, the past couple weeks to find out what people are saying. And that is, again, why you are here tonight, because I asked you to come on, and you did not want to do that. And so I appreciate you doing that to clear up some information here. But you have people saying, well, how did they get a searchlight up there? I mean, how yada yada yada. I mean, there's so many interesting questions. I mean, wouldn't you think if there was this lookout tower that they would have a light up there like that? I mean, I don't understand that thought process, but just give me a little information on that.
I think, and that's a great question. Thank you. When I hear that, I sit and scratch my head, because this is not the first time that I have shown this slide here with the searchlight that all CL 100 series cab towers have affixed to the catwalk around it. Nobody's carrying lights up flights of stairs. This is somebody that hasn't taken the time to watch or to learn, that is just jumping to conclusions in a very reactionary, very emotional state, and more than likely somebody that makes a lot of money keeping the story alive.
Interesting. Okay, thank you for clarifying that. I think this is wonderful, and when you have a story that is this old and has been ingrained in all of us, I mean, it is important to keep going over these facts so people understand this very clearly. And I want to just get to a question in chat, and thank you, Timmy, for making a donation. But he wants to know, and I'm sorry to get you off topic. We'll go right back to where you were going.
Sure.
But what about this story in particular makes it your focus for debunking? Is it the notoriety or the bizarre story or something else? I could answer that for you, but I'm going to let you do that.
It is a question to repeat. What is my motivation for talking about this?
Yes.
Because myself, I was a huge believer in this story, and I'll be honest, I didn't know how many people were involved in this. I didn't know how many people really believed it until I met you guys. And even though I was working on putting this together, I was always told by network execs that this just wasn't a big enough story. So when I saw the reactions on my very first time on your show, and saw how important this was to so many people, I felt that I had an obligation for those that are truly seeking to know truth of information that I have, and if somebody's willing to listen, then I'm willing to share.
Thank you. I appreciate you answering that. And so, Scott, I know that there is a question there, and I'm turning this over to you for a minute, but what is your question for Ryan?
That well, first let me back up for a second. So I've heard 3 or 4 different people maybe make the comment that how could they have shot the beam of light into Travis's face at the abduction site? So we have to, tell people don't understand that those two sites are completely different from each other. So I'll leave it up to Ryan.
Yeah, I don't know that I have anything to add outside of that, Scott. Again, this was something that respectfully the Peter Robbins group started. This was mentioned on Peter Robbins' show a lot, and his panel of people. This is something that they just pulled out of thin air. Again, these are not the first time I have showed these slides, so I don't understand the issue, but it's definitely something I want to clear up.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And again, I want to thank everybody in chat for being here again and asking such great questions. And I really want to thank Vincent for making that donation. That's really incredible. And so, speak about, what you've mentioned the motivations for people coming up with this alternate theory as to what, you've been presenting. And so the motivation, go into that a little bit more, if you don't mind, Ryan.
Well, I'm certainly not making any money doing this. And I'm going up against a lot of people that make a lot of money keeping the story alive. Again, this is... Look, the way that I was raised is when you know something is not true, you have a responsibility to say it. And this probably happened with my sister as a kid when she would do things and I would tattle on her. I don't know, but again, this is 45 years. This is a $15 million budgeted film, and I outside of what I already said, I don't know how to add more icing to that cake. Just that I had this information. I think that I was in a very unique position of working with these folks, and I have a story to tell.
Well, thank you for telling that. I know that it's not an easy thing, and as you have learned firsthand, trying to go up against the some of the people in ufology who are, emotional. We all get emotional. I am guilty of that. I know Scott is. I know that's a shock, but I think that it's never an easy task. And you mentioned that this was kind of a surprise for you when you came forward with your story, but it is for me one of the more kind of disturbing elements of the UFO quote unquote community is the fact that this is a popularity contest. This is about friendships. It's not about the facts. And I will say I've met incredible people I will be friends with the rest of my life, but I'm also here trying to find facts. And like I mentioned, if I'm wrong, I will admit it. I have been emotional, and I've formed attachments with people, and I will admit that I'm wrong and I need to step back. So thank you, Ryan. And then
So Scott, what do you think, or Scott and Erica? what are your guys' opinion? Why this group of people tried to derail everything as we witnessed a couple of days ago? What is your guys' opinion on that?
Scott?
I just think that some of it's got to do with friendships that they formed with the people that are directly involved, and these people, they've met them and hung out with them at conferences, and spoke to them on the phone and through email, and they've formed friendships. So it's hard to see your friend that you think has been telling you this story for all these years, and now all of a sudden somebody's coming along and saying, hey, that guy is, he's bullshitting you. It's tough for people to step back and say, wait a minute, let me take another look at it. It's just, it's really amazed me over the past week to see some of these veteran researchers just, make these statements on these podcasts and not even look at what you've presented.
That's been shocking to me as well. I think it's I don't know. I guess that's why ufology is where it is. And I think, unfortunately, because the people in leadership positions have not had, the fortitude to stand up and say, "Hey, wait a minute. We need to. This isn't a social club. This is something that we're doing for the betterment of humankind, and there is something very genuine here." But unfortunately, does turn into this. We're on the speaking circuit, and we're going to be hanging out with this person, and so we can't ask questions about things. So, and let me just say again, I want to thank everybody in chat. You guys are asking great questions, great comments. I appreciate you very, very much. And so, Scott, what are your thoughts on radiation? And let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so this is being brought up constantly about how different aspects of the case were checked with radiation. Ryan can go into it more, but he's looked at the records too, so I'm going to let him take it.
Okay. There's a couple of points with this story that you're going to hear when people are describing. You're going to hear about the lie detector tests and a series of past lie detector tests. You're going to hear that the story hasn't changed in 45 years. And you're going to hear about radiation tree rings. Let's touch on that. This is the same slide I used in last week's presentation. The photo on the left is the source from that is Travis, the true story of Travis Walton. And they're showing this very bizarre growth pattern with the trees. In this instance, the stumps, the white circle here in the middle is supposed to be representative of where this alleged UFO landed. I showed last week, and I'm going to zoom in here a little bit more. This is the report by Ground Saucer Watch. Again, Ground Saucer Watch is a very pro-UFO organization. They hired experienced and certified field investigators to go and scan the ground on behalf of the National Enquirer, funded by the National Enquirer. And how the report reads, without exception, is there's no indication of any radiation at all, period. And it wasn't just Ground Saucer Watch that made these same remarks, these same notes, these same findings, but it was also APRO, which is another pro-UFO organization. I know that a lot of folks, especially the really firm believers in ufology, have a hard time believing anything if they think that it was sourced by a skeptic like Philip Klass or anybody who might be derogatory to ufology in general. To reinforce again, these are actual pro-UFO organizations that at the time in 1975 and 1976 found no radiation. But it didn't stop there, unfortunately. And I think it was about 10 years ago or so, the radiation thing with this story was non-existent until roughly 10 years ago. And just all of a sudden, here comes radiation. Let me zoom this out just a bit here. These are pictures that I took, boots on the ground, at the site. This is one of the trees in question. I showed last week how Mike Rogers had taken these core samples, these tree samples himself with a chainsaw. And if we look, I'm going to go back and forth in slides here. I hope that isn't too confusing, but we're going to see that according to this graphic, again from the Travis documentary, that the tree ring growth is going toward where the alleged UFO was. I was pretty extensive showing last week where this UFO allegedly landed here on the site, and I showed everybody that it was back here where my mouse is. That's where they say. What we see here is an exact opposite of what was described to the public with the core sample facing exactly the wrong direction. So I don't know that if anybody here watching this is a tree ring expert, and if you are, please speak up. But let's zoom in on this picture on the left. I'm not sure what the resolution is going to be with me screen sharing this, but we're not seeing anything in here. I'd be happy to make these photos public, by the way, but we're not seeing anything here that is showing anything close to this.
Right.
It didn't stop there though. We had, again with this film, Travis, the true story of Travis Walton, we had a popular TV personality that came on and spoke about Chernobyl. Make this a little bit bigger here for everybody. So I had to go check that out myself. Now, I do want to be clear that there was a report from the BBC that did talk about tree ring growth being abnormally significant in the area of Chernobyl, but the way the article was written was very vague. It's just saying a tree. The way my head works is I have to know what type of tree are you talking about, because how many types of trees are there? So I found a report by the Journal of Environmental Radioactivity. This is dated October 2020, so fairly recent. And it's talking about a Scott pine tree. Now, the types of trees that we see here are ponderosa pine. I do want to be very transparent with that, but it's still a pine tree. Anyhow, how the report says is these trees that were exposed to sublethal doses of radiation did not demonstrate deviations in formation of annual rings even up to 30 years after Chernobyl. So I get that you can go on television, you can go on a documentary, and you can say that in a very broad statement of trees or tree rings, but we need to know what type of tree. And the pine trees around Chernobyl did not, according to this actual scientific report, did not show that radiation.
Thank you. And we've got a great question, and Trevor, I will ask this question in a little bit, but then thank you so much. But I want to get to the lie detectors again, and I know for those of you who have been here every week, you've heard a lot of this, but again, this is a story that has been decades, and so we have to go over this and address questions and make sure that we are getting information out so you can make the best decision that you can.
Sure.
And the lie detector tests are very pivotal for a lot of people. So can you give us a little explanation or a big explanation on exactly why that is so important?
Did anybody have any questions about radiation before I close this chapter out? I have a bunch of slides here about Polygraph, but is there any question that I can answer to anybody about Polygraph, or excuse me, about radiation? Again, the biggest point is Ground Saucer Watch was there. They did the report. APRO was there. They did their reports. This is all public record. MUFON has a great file on all this stuff, roughly 400 pages for people that are interested in searching. There was no radiation. Any conversation of radiation dealing with fire in the sky is nothing more than a blatant lie.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
I just want to add one thing. And Ryan, you and I spoke about it, that a world-renowned tree ring lab exists right in Arizona, and it was established in 1937, and they were never consulted.
That's correct, yeah. I see a question here from Tom Mellett. Tom, I've seen a lot of your posts, and thank you so much for being a big part of this story and being really active here in the community. His comment says, Ryan, the BBC has photos of the Chernobyl trees. Absolutely. The point that I'm making, and maybe this is not coming across properly, I'm not interested in just a tree. I'm only interested in pine trees, because that is the tree in question at Turkey Springs. So if we're not talking about pine trees, I'm not worried about what happened at Chernobyl.
Great. Okay. Thank you very much. And I know that we've got lots of questions in here, and so I'm going to have Scott just keep an eye on this too. And then as some of the questions become, we get to that, then we will definitely ask. So thank you, you guys, for your patience on all of this. And so let's get to the polygraph test. I know that tests. I know that some people view them as unreliable, but some people don't. And so give us the information of why this is such an important part of the case. Either way,
It
on
really,
either side.
it really is. The people that are very pro, can we call them Team Travis? Would that be okay? The people that are very Team Travis are hell-bent on the polygraph. It's okay, you know, it's a I don't know who developed a polygraph. I haven't ever researched that, but I do realize, especially back in the 70s, that was a very common tool in the toolbox for members of law enforcement, things like this. You can see here on this slide that I have, this is a report from the Arizona Department of Public Safety. This is actual government employee that had, or excuse me, it was, I think Cy Gilson actually is a government employee. I can double check on that. I'm assuming so because it's on letterhead. But yes, he is part of the, Cy Gilson is the polygraph examiner for the Department of Public Safety. Anyhow, what I've learned along this journey of talking about polygraphs, because people bring it up all the time. What about the polygraphs? How'd all these guys pass a polygraph? How they passed 10 million polygraphs since forever? If you don't know the questions that were asked, I think that the advice would be not to defend a polygraph. Because the polygraph is about the questions. And as I've shown in both of my presentations, the questions that were asked to the witnesses, there's only 4, are not what people think. Let's zoom in here. It's about as close as I get without cutting this off too much. Happy to read the questions again. Question 1. Actually, question 1 through 3, so we don't turn into another 4-hour time here. But question 1 through 3, the police are interested in the whereabouts and the physical safety of Travis Walton. That's it. This is a missing persons case, perhaps a murder investigation. That's what the first 3 questions are about. Question 4, did you tell the truth about actually seeing a UFO last Wednesday when Travis Walton disappeared? I'm going to expand on this, and I didn't show this before, not for any particular reason, but the second page, page 2 of this report. Each of the 6 men answered no to questions 1, 2, and 3 about Travis being missing, which we know is true. And they each answered yes to question 4, which is, did they see an object they couldn't identify? I want to go down to the last paragraph here where it talks about this UFO. It says, if an actual UFO did not exist and the UFO was a man-made hoax, 5 of these men had no prior knowledge of a hoax. No such determination can be made of the 6th man, which is Alan Dallas, because the results were inconclusive. So what this says, and what a polygraph is, it is not a determination of truth or deception, for that matter. It's a determination of what you believe. That's it. And these guys, by design, these other 5 guys, by design, did think that they saw something they couldn't explain. That's what this report says. The witness polygraph, going back here to this page again, done by Cy Gilson, is to, as it says here, deliberately trying to conceal a criminal act, which is aggravated assault or homicide, in which Travis Walton was the victim. That is the intent of this test. The Arizona Department of Public Safety was not out doing polygraph tests on UFO abduction cases. Where this becomes really confusing is for folks that watched Fire in the Sky, when the witnesses are sitting, the movie, when they're sitting down with the sheriff and this Cy Gilson, every question they're asked on the movie talks about a UFO abduction. You'll learn as this goes, and I think Scott would like to speak on this as well. But there is a lot of convergence in between the movie and real life, and respectfully, a lot of people are having a hard time separating themselves from a movie.
I would agree.
And so, Scott, do you have any questions right now that you want to ask?
So Ryan, I know you mentioned that at some point that you may get some pictures of Gentry lit up at night. So
yeah, definitely. Can we stay on the polygraph section here for a bit though?
Oh yeah,
Would
okay.
that be okay?
Yep.
All right, so I want to go to the next part of the polygraph journey, which is Travis Walton and his first polygraph. The polygraph, says here what the backstory to that is, that the polygraph examination was for the National Enquirer. For folks that are new to this story, you're going to hear the National Enquirer, a tabloid, come up quite a bit. That is because the phrase "follow the money," the $100,000 reward was placed for the best UFO story, and from the get-go, before Travis had even returned, the National Enquirer was involved. So these questions are what people think. Let's see if I can make this a little bit bigger. Let's try one more step. These are the questions that people think of when they think of this story. Were you actually taken aboard a spacecraft near Heber on November 5, 75? Travis says yes. Were you actually in a spacecraft from the 5th to the 10th of November? Travis says yes. Have you lied to Dr. Harder about being in a spacecraft? No. Have you acted in collusion with the others to perpetrate a UFO hoax? No. Did you lie to any of Sheriff Gillespie's questions concerning your disappearance? Travis once again says no. Were you hiding somewhere in Arizona during your disappearance? Travis says no. Have you been advised by anyone to lie on this examination? And Travis says no. This report, after looking at the charts and careful consideration, John McCarthy, who I want to say has over 20 years of experience doing polygraph tests, says based on his reactions, meaning Travis, on all the charts, it is the opinion of this examiner that Walton, in concert with others, is attempting to perpetrate a UFO hoax, and that he has not been on any spacecraft. That was Travis's first polygraph. Now, before we move on from this, there's a video that I would like folks to see. I'm somewhat worried about the audio in this because it's part of the presentation. So if we're having audio issues, I'm hoping that folks will say something. So we'll make this as big as we can. Let's go ahead and play this. And Scott, as soon as you hear this play, if you could immediately chime in if you can hear it. Can you guys hear this?
I didn't hear anything.
All right. I think I need to take out my AirPods. Give me just a second. All right, let's try this again. And again, if you could tell me immediately if you can hear it.
Selling newspapers. They asked Walton to take a lie detector.
Can you hear that?
Yes.
All right. I'm going to start that again so people can hear it from the beginning.
Others?
Actually, before we go that, this is a show called The Case of the UFOs. And this was on the network called Nova, if folks remember that, in 1982.
Wanted to be sure. The National Enquirer has long had an interest in UFOs and in selling newspapers. They asked Walton to take a lie detector test and called in the services of Jack McCarthy.
I received a call at my home asking me to come to the Sheraton Hotel in Scottsdale and not to tell anybody where I was going, period. Well, naturally, I told my wife and picked up my portable equipment and left for the hotel.
A lie detector is used to reveal whether a person is telling the truth by measuring pulse rate, respiration, and blood pressure. Some experts, however, doubt its reliability. But after 2 hours of questioning and recording the reactions, McCarthy thought he had the answer.
When I completed my examinations, after reading my charts, I rendered the opinion to the reporters from the National Enquirer that the charts were deceptive, and that, in my opinion, he was attempting to perpetrate a UFO hoax. Well, the lid blew off the room. I thought his brother Dwayne was going to throw me off the balcony. He was raging like a bull, saying there's no way that his brother would lie. And his charts were very, very clear, obviously deceptive. And prior to the examination, the reporters from the National Enquirer, I forgot to mention this, asked me if I would have any objection ahead of time to having pictures taken of my charts, the equipment, and myself following the examination. I said, no problem. Well, after I rendered my opinion, the pictures were completely forgotten. They had no more interest in pictures. But what they did do, they went into an adjoining room and drew up a little form for me to sign, asked me to sign it, to the effect that I wouldn't reveal where I had been that day. They would say nothing about this examination, and so forth and so on.
Travis Walton argues that he failed the test because he was excessively nervous as a result of his recent close encounter with aliens.
Despite his claim of being overly nervous, his reactions on the chart are in itself a disclaimer to that contention. He was not overly nervous. His reactions were normal. They were very deceptive. And in my opinion, he was lying and did not take any UFO.
Experience was a hoax. Travis Walton was given another test sometime later, which he did pass, although the procedure used has been criticized.
All right. It was really cool to find that video, and Scott, you helped me with that. Hearing directly from the man who wrote this report and hearing him say it is, for me, so much more powerful than just reading it.
Yep.
How that ended is it said that there was a lot of controversy after Travis taking another polygraph and passing it. I want to talk about that controversy. This is another report here. Again, this is from the MUFON file, and this really just blew the lid off of all of this for me. The Waltons, plural, the Walton family, had told Pfeiffer, he was the person in charge of conducting the polygraph that Travis passed, that they wanted specific questions asked. And the polygrapher, Pfeiffer, agreed. That's not how polygraphs work. You can't go in there with your own questions that you've been rehearsing and practicing. But at the end of the day, National Enquirer, they needed to run with this story, and they needed a polygraph that was passing. So they'll do whatever it takes. This is what people really need to remember. This story was built around the protocol of National Enquirer, a tabloid. Today it's grown into something much different, but this was done within the parameters of a tabloid, even to where Travis and his family could choose and write their own questions.
That is great. And I want to just say thank you, Alien Girl. Thank you, Vincent, Charles. Great people. Ryan, if you can put your pods back under mute for once. Sorry. I know the joy is audio, but I just want to say thank you, all of you guys, and Jasmine, Jeff, everybody. It's really, really good to see all of your really thoughtful comments tonight. I think that's incredibly important for us to have a dialogue like this. So thanks, you guys. I appreciate it. So Ryan, let's get back to this, and I'm sorry to do that with your audio.
That's okay. Can you hear me again with these
Yes. Yep.
on?
Yep.
Okay, good deal. Good deal. So does anybody have any questions? Erica, Scott, anybody here in the audience? It looks like we've got a lot of people here listening, which is really cool. From all over the world, it looks like as well, which is actually pretty neat. But is there any question that I can answer, or Erica or Scott, dealing with polygraphs, as this is one of the foundations, one of the pinnacles holding this story up?
Yeah, it doesn't look like right now we've got any questions about that, so we can perhaps, unless you're seeing something, Scott, that I'm missing. Did you see any more questions about that specifically?
No.
The polygraph? Okay, wonderful. Okay, then let's move right along. So we've got, are you good with the lie detectors and moving on, Ryan?
Yeah.
Great. Okay, so Scott has done some really great work today. I want to thank Scott for doing that. And so let's talk about Gentry at night. And Ryan, I want to say, because there was some chat earlier talking about how you drove by Gentry at night, and
Yeah.
that to you was kind of the whole thing that spurred on
Correct.
this, because you saw it and you saw this object that seemed to be out of place. And one of the things I want to say, and I have been hearing this kind of chatter, people are saying, well, how could you misidentify that? And I want to just say, have you been looking at UFOs and looking at the fact that what is the percentage of misidentifications as far as UFO reports go? So can you imagine being out in the middle of a forest at night, seeing this object, this structure completely illuminated? And again, I will stress the fact that this is not the typical way that these gentlemen went home. So this was something that was new to them. And so,
Sure.
Ryan, do you have any thoughts? Scott, what are your thoughts on that?
I think people are getting confused with, that they don't realize that there's more than one way into the forest, and they don't realize that this other route was used, and Ryan can go into that.
All right, so let's start here with this slide. Let's look at this screen share. It looks like it's showing up pretty good. This is the standard way of getting to work. So right here, this is Heber, the town of Heber, Arizona. And the way that they would go, and this was verified, this is the way that I went up there with these guys as well. It's called Black Canyon Road. This is the typical route. According to Google, it's 16 and a half miles. This is a windy, high ground clearance, legitimate off-road trail. As soon as you start getting up into the higher elevations, it gets washed out by rain. There's a lot of big rocks. This is something that you need to have, like a Jeep Wrangler, a high clearance 4x4 truck, something 4-wheel drive to get up here. You're not getting up here like in a Prius or something, that's for sure. Anyhow, this is the typical way to work, and this is the way that I had gone up that day as well. So the notes that I have here, it was a very bumpy road, which it is. It's a all dirt road, with the exception of the last quarter mile. And what that means here is starting at Turkey Springs and heading back into town. The last quarter mile is a paved road here in town. There's lots of rocks. It's really washed out. Pretty steep inclines. Like if it was raining through here, or if there's snow, you're gonna have trouble. Average speed 5 to 8 miles an hour. So the arrows here, this one here is pointing to the Turkey Springs work site, the job site here. This area, or this arrow here, pointing to where Gentry is, so that folks can understand and see this on a Google map. This is the typical way to work. What we learned through testimony of Steve Pierce is the night of November 5th, they were far behind on their contract. 80% of time had passed, and only 30% of the job had been completed. This was the first night, according to Steve Pierce. Steve Pierce being one of the logging crew, for folks that may not know. This was the first night that they had taken a different way home. The reason being is they had worked extra long shift. They're tired. Let's go a different way home. Let's get these guys home faster. So I want everybody to remember this 16 and a half miles. Here's the other way home. This is taking Rim Road to Highway 260. Highway 260 is a typical freeway road like anywhere else in the country. But you'll see that this way is almost twice as far in miles. It's exactly 25.9 according to Google Maps, but let's just call it 26. If we go back over here, 16 and a half. So let's just call it double. Let's be generous. The majority of this road, or this way home, is a paved 4-lane highway where you can go, I don't know what you could go in 70, probably 55. Today you can go 70 something. Rim Road, which is Highway 300, is a graded road that is maintained by the U.S. Forest Service. This road is longer in miles, but it's a much smoother and easier ride. You're not getting jostled all over the place. This is the road that the crew took home on the 5th of November, 1975. This was the first time that the crew had ever passed Gentry. And you pass it on the right, which is witnessed in the police reports and the early newspaper articles of them you've seen the UFO to the west. This is the first time, or excuse me, it's the first article saying that the UFO was over Rim Road. The average speed here is 50 miles an hour, compared to over here, 5 to 8 miles an hour. Again, this is the first time that these folks had ever driven past Gentry. To show you what Rim Road looks like, this is the photo I took. It's a nice road. And Mike Rogers told me that the road has always been this good. It's always looked this nice. But let's not stop just with newspaper articles or easier ways of travel. Let's go to the book. In the book being Fire in the Sky, they have something in there they call "Thank You, Ma'ams." The exact quote from Fire in the Sky is the under chassis truck. The under chassis would scrape over water bars in the road, which are called "Thank You, Ma'ams" for some forgotten reason. Again, excerpt from Fire in the Sky. Another excerpt from Fire in the Sky. This is as they're both of these are as they're leaving after seeing the UFO, by the way. Excuse me, bouncing over the "Thank You, Ma'ams," the truck kept bottoming out on its springs with a dull clunking sound. The fellows started cracking jokes about the pickup. So this is a graphic representation of what a water bar is. These are put in roads that are maintained by the U.S. Forest Service, and they're meant to channel rainwater off of the road, so that the road is passable. They don't have to spend tax dollars going in and grading it all the time. You see these about every half mile-ish out there. So as again, going back to the book, they're hitting these things so fast. It's like the truck is almost launching into the air a little bit. The truck's bottoming out. These are not on old man. These "Thank You, Ma'ams," these water bars, they are not on
The logging
roads. They're not. Yeah, thank you. I was drawing a blank there. Logging roads that are made by forest crews. They're not. The forest crew roads are just let's get to work. This is a maintained thing. This is yet again another proof that we are on Rim Road. This is a big deal because this is the site where we are told that this incident took place. We can still see the old logging road today. This drone shot is probably 3-4 months old-ish. We can see the old road here. Right here, I have arrows pointing to it. So there's a lot of issues with this site, and Scott, I'm gonna hand it over to you. But to close out this part of how did the guys not see a fire tower? How did they not know what it looked like? What does it look like at night? All of these things, or how do you even know they were there? I have, on all of my presentations, I have shown a tremendous amount of proof right from the book that they were not here. Before I do this, though, Scott, I want to give you a tremendous amount of credit for this. And I want this thing to be as big as I can on the screen. We're going to hit full screen here. Let's see. It's not going to matter. I already showed that. Oh, thanks. Yeah, get rid of us. This is a drone shot that was lit up just by natural sunlight that I asked Scott, can you make this look like it was at night so that people can have a better visualization? And Scott, you killed it.
Nice.
Like, this is phenomenal. Over here, actually, Scott, you explain it. I mean, it's my photo, but you made it. Explain where the road is. Explain all this.
Yeah, so this is the road coming in. This is right after the curve in the road that everybody talks about coming around the corner. And alls I did was take the windows from a lit fire tower and superimpose them over your daytime shot. Then I dropped the star sky behind it, dropped down the different levels to make it look like it was dark out. The only thing that's really missing would be like kind of a glow maybe underneath it a little bit. But people can get an idea of, and remember, people listening, you're above the trees looking at it. So the people who were on the ground pulling up to it, you would be looking through trees at it. And part of it would be obscured by the trees.
Like that?
Yeah, that was a different version that I created. So trying to make it look like how it possibly could have looked to the guys in the truck when they pulled up to it. And of course, it's just a simulation, but, very, very plausible.
Scott, can we go through this using? I mean, you've talked to me a lot about this shot. What are your thoughts on this? Including Mike Rogers had posted a picture here. Tell people about that.
Right. So this is where they claim that the abduction took place, and this logging road. And we're kind of not low enough to see it, but this logging road is down below this ridge. And what they're claiming happened is that Travis jumped out of the truck right here, went up this incline, and they were able to see him with all of this happening, with him standing there with, the supposed beam hit him. And, if people actually went there and maybe just parked their vehicle on that road, I highly doubt they're going to see up on top of that ridge. But I think that all the people that have been brought out to this location, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ryan, this location has been mostly kept a secret.
Correct.
Because they don't want people going out there and traipsing around. And so this is the location where Travis claims he was abducted, on top of this ridge, and the truck was parked down below this incline. Yeah.
I made a scale over here just based off the trees, and I'm saying that this little line is probably hard for people to see, but let's zoom in here a little bit. This right here I'm saying is roughly 10 feet. So that will give you an idea of how tall these trees are, probably because there was a fire here, to be clear, that kind of bounced around and meandered its way through this area. But this is going to be fairly new-ish growth. But these are still pretty big trees, 15, 20 feet tall.
Right.
Here, if I stop, folks can probably really easily see the old logging road that's still there today.
Yeah.
And from this angle here, with the graph saying decently steep incline, it is. When you have your truck there, you're standing there, you can't see to the top of that hill. There's no way. Not only that, there's vegetation and stuff blocking your view, but people can't look out a truck window and look over the top of a hill. I mean, it's just, they should have picked a better site where this happened.
Right.
So let me just ask you, because I want to go back and run. I don't want to, get you off track, but I think Skills Jr. has a good point, and I think this is a need to clarify this. But when you came up with the tower theory, and then Mike independently explained that, I mean, what was the sequencing of that? And did you have a conversation with Mike after he admitted that this was a hoax?
Sure. So April 30th is when Mike Rogers called me and confessed that this entire event was hoaxed. Everybody has heard that call by now. It was the very next day, the 1st of May, that we went first to Gentry to talk about what happened there. And then we went here. I don't want to get into a conversation that is a hearsay at all, or me relaying anything like that. The only thing I can tell you is that after I was shown all this stuff, and again, Mike wasn't the only one, but that my takeaway was that it was all Gentry.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. And I want again, seriously, I'm just amazed at the great questions in chat tonight. This is really really
Does
cool.
anybody have any questions about the route, the maps, the why they drove past Gentry here? I don't have the chat here in front of me, but if there's any questions here that I can ask answer about any of this, I would love to.
And one thing, and I just to interrupt you, I apologize about that. We'll see if there are any questions that come in. But Charles is mentioning from Project Camelot that it was very interesting that there were no reports of anything in the environment changing, animals, sounds, things like that. And again, it did happen very quickly, but that is interesting because in most reports that you hear, there is some sort of mention of what is taking place in the surrounding area.
I'm glad that he brought that up because that gives me another thought. On the time, on the Jimmy Church show, we hear, and this is going to be here at this site, of course, that's where they're going to talk, that there were people deer hunting out here. Let's talk about that for a second because you just brought up animals and it kind of refreshed my memory. Now, I want to be really clear. I've never hunted animals in my life. I wasn't raised around it. I understand a lot of people do. A lot of people in my family or in my extended family do. But I'm smart enough to know that they claim that there's about 200 yards in between where they parked their truck and where they saw a UFO. That in that same space, there were not people out there hunting deer because you had chainsaws running all day. And deer are so skittish. I don't know how Mr. Walton could publicly say that there was people out there hunting deer at the same time they're chopping down trees. I mean, that is one of the most reckless things that a hunter could do is firing live ammunition when there's people around chopping down trees. I mean, Travis must think people are just stupid. On top of the fact that deer are not going to hang around when there's all this commotion going on. The reason that came up, and this is going to be a divergence or derail, sorry about that, but the reason that would come up, because I remember speaking with him about this, is I'd always heard that there was police reports filed. And Scott, you mentioned this on a show with Rich. Goof On, I want to say, was his channel.
Yes.
Anyhow, when I had asked or said, "Oh, good," if there's other people that saw this thing, I want to also say this is pre-Gentry. I didn't know about Gentry yet, but let's go get copies of those police reports. Let's go find these people. Let's get them on camera, because this is something that had never been done. And if there's people around here, around that area that we can talk to, let's do it. So what I was told is that Sheriff Gillespie, he was always a huge doubter, thought the whole thing was hoax for his entire life until his last days, where he apparently had a change of heart, like a deathbed change of heart thing, and went down and burnt all the records so that I couldn't see them. That sucked. Anyhow, it's absolutely ridiculous. The other thing that we learned on the Jimmy Church call is that there was an FBI agent that was just happened to be out here in a logging area camping with his wife. I mean, the Sitgreaves National Forest is massive. It covers multiple states. And you think people are going to choose to go camping in a forestry area with chainsaws all day? I mean, how can the guy say this and expect people to believe it? I know it sounds good that you have an FBI agent that's posted right here, and the FBI agent is on some record that who knows is buried, who knows how deep, that witnessed this. Like I said to Mike Rogers, I play the audio, show the audio. I say, show the police reports. They weren't burnt up. They don't exist. And nor was there an FBI guy perched on the hill here that witnessed. That's just not where people come up with this stuff. Anyhow, any questions here? Or should I be looking at the chat, or do you guys want to...
I don't see.
Erica, you're muted.
God, you know what? Okay, I made it until 6:08. This is the seventh sign of the apocalypse right here. I made it. I mean, over half a show without, the mute thing. But anyway, so yeah, this is good for me, as people know who follow my show. This is the way it rolls on UFO Classified.
I see Steve. I've seen this question pop up quite a few times. I'm happy to answer that, if that's okay with you, Erica.
Yeah. Yep.
Steve Long, that is correct, that there was a cabin. It's not off of Rim Road, but it's fairly close to it. But what you're saying is right. On May 1st, Mike Rogers and I went from Gentry to the fake abduction site to Travis's mom's cabin. They're within a radius, off the top of my head, I'm going to say, 15 miles or so radius together. They're all pretty close. It was Philip Klass that came up with that theory that Travis hung out at his mom's house during the 5 days there.
Okay, thank you so much. And I want to just ask, because Trevor, thank you for the donation to the show. You do have a photo from the vantage point of the truck at the alleged official location, right?
I do, yeah. I showed that on last week's presentation.
Perfect. Yeah. So, Trevor, we can go back maybe at the end of the show if we've got time, and then talk about that. And then I also want to, because we're getting into the second half of the show, and we have Robert Shaeffer joining us, and if Shadowy Spectrums would like to get in here as well, I want to have a little discussion, because this has been such a fluid thing that has been evolving over the past few weeks, and I know that Robert has been involved in this a little bit longer than I have, and I want to introduce Robert. For those of you who know Robert is not only a beautiful opera singer with an amazing voice, but he is at a lot of the conferences, and he is what you would call, some people, a skeptic, a debunker. But I have to say that Robert's been on my show before. I talk to him often, and I appreciate the input that he has here, because we need to have all sides of this, I believe. So Robert, welcome to the show. And so, and Ryan, do you mind if I just ask Robert, how did you get involved, Robert? Is that okay,
Oh yeah.
Ryan? Okay.
Yeah. Hi, Robert. How are you?
Well,
Oh, so Robert sounds like in Mickey Mouse mode.
yep, I think your microphone is quite special.
This,
Yeah, I think your microphone.
wow.
I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. I needed a laugh today. Thank you, Robert. Yeah, your mic is having a special moment. And thank you, JD. Thank you for your comments, you guys.
Yeah, it's speeding up what he's saying.
I've heard things, and that is quite something there. But anyway, I'm going to add, while he figures that out, I am going to add Peter Shelley to the stream. Peter has been on my show before, and he's always here in chat. He asks such thoughtful and intelligent questions. And so, Peter, welcome to the show tonight. What have your thoughts been with regard to all the information that Ryan Gordon is presenting? This must be, this is quite interesting for all of us, I think. But tell us where you went from 3 weeks ago to now, Peter.
Well, first, let me just thank you, Erica, and all for the invitation, and the Ryan, Scott, Robert. Yeah, I'm very impressed. There's an expression that they use in the UK, gobsmacked. It's absolutely stunning what you are revealing to the UFO community, to the world. I really am impressed. And yeah, prior to these revelations, I have to say that I was kind of suspecting that maybe Travis Walton was maybe just a clever actor. In the past, I believed his story, and he seemed very sincere. He seemed to project like he had experienced a trauma. But then I began to sense that maybe something wasn't quite right. And this was before the tower aspect came out. So all of you are doing an incredible job. And I think it's really important that we get this information out. And that my reaction is there always will be people who will side with Travis Walton. And there will be people who now consider this case to be questionable, to be a hoax. In Spain, there was a famous hoax, the Humo affair, that went on for 50 years. And even after Orden Pina, the creator of the hoax, confessed, people didn't accept it. Even today, more than 50 years later, there are people that still believe that hoax. So we are going to be in that situation. But I think we should continue to investigate this. And I should probably stop at this point. But I believe there is a real phenomena. I think UFOs, there is something unearthly. I've had an experience.
Right, and you've shared that on the show, and I want to just tell people to go back and listen to the show that you were on, because that is really it's incredible, and I think that that all of us here, I mean, Ryan, you came into this, you believed everything, as did I. I mean, that's the thing, you want to, I don't know, we've all go through this process, but now when you step back and you look at things critically and you look at all of the information presented, we have to ask, we have to step back and say, okay, wait a minute, what else can we look at in the UFO community that isn't necessarily true, and who in that community has allowed things to stay relevant when people are clearly making money off of things, and they are, in my opinion, really not providing a good service for the witnesses and people who've had profound experiences. I think that's an incredible disservice. So those are my thoughts
Thank
there.
you for the compliments, Mr. Shelley. I appreciate you and everything you said. I hope to meet you sometime.
Well, I am just blown away by this information, and I don't think we need to be too sad about it, because there are many other cases that have the promise of validity that we can investigate. You know, the Travis Walton case is not the only case out there that is about alien abduction. There's so many cases for us to check into and examine. It shouldn't be the end of the world for anybody. That we will discover more hoaxes in the future. This is the process that we're going through. So I am actually not disappointed. I think we're in an exciting time. I think we have a lot of possibilities to investigate other cases and make our own investigations about new information. And I'm feeling positive, actually.
That's great. I love it. And that's important, because this has been, it's like, oh my gosh, this has been like ripping out the rug from underneath a lot of people. And so to have that positive statement, Peter, you're always very, very good that way. And I appreciate that. So thank you very much. And I want to see if Robert's back without his Donald Duck voice. Robert, how's it going there? Oh, his mic is muted. Oh, okay. We'll come back. It's okay. Okay, boys. So I know it's okay. We'll get him back on. And I'm telling you, technology is just an evil creature sometimes. So
I know he has a lot of things he'd like to talk about. I can
Right.
call him and put him on speaker or something.
yeah, whatever you think we can do, that's great.
Let me
So-
see if I can get him on the line. I'm going to
Yeah.
mute myself here.
Yeah,
for a
absolutely. And I wanted to say in Northern UFOs, Mario, thank you for being here every week. Thank you for supporting UFO Classified. You are just a wonderful support for both Scott and myself. And so thank you. And, Mario makes a really great point. He said, let's not let another UFO case go for 45 years before a real investigation is put forward. And I will say, that's great. There were, people that were raising the alarm bells right when this was happening. And for some reason, that gets lost in the shuffle. And so we'll make sure, I think now that we're creating this cohesive environment, a new community of people that are grounded in their approach and still understand that there is something of merit to study, I think that we can hopefully have a higher standard than what we've seen, especially in the past, couple decades, except with the exception of Jen, Aldrich and Barry Greenwood and all of my wonderful friends. But so, Ryan, are we good to go there? Well, all right. Okay. So
Hey,
anyway,
can you try Robert
good?
again? He thinks he has this worked out.
oh Lord. Okay.
Okay.
Well, no, probably not. So maybe, I don't think he's got it figured out. But Ryan, can you just give us a little bit of background?
Eric,
there?
are you here?
I'm happy to talk with Robert.
Yeah, and I think Ryan, are your earbuds in?
Nope.
Okay. Thank you. So Ryan, if you could just give us a little background
good?
about Robert, yep, that's great, and his involvement in the case. Ryan, your mic is off. There we
Okay,
go.
sorry, I had to reconnect to my computer. Anyhow, I'm sorry. Can you repeat the question? I was having this audio issue.
Yep, no, I'm just wondering if you could give us a little bit of background on Robert's involvement with your work on this case.
Sure. So I learned about Robert Shaeffer through Travis Walton and Mike Rogers is somebody on the other end of the spectrum. I came across Robert by accident. He was on Geraldo back with Travis Walton in late 70s, early 80s, I want to say. So I reached out to Robert to just learn a different perspective of the case. And then as we would both get to trust each other a little bit more, I shared the confession video or audio with him. And then he is the one that would bring that to the public by putting it on his website.
Okay, can you hear me now?
There we go.
All right. I don't know what I did. I just unplugged and replugged and whatever, and here we are.
You're on mute, Erica.
Yeah, I don't hear anything.
Oh,
There we
okay.
go.
Well, anyway, I'm glad it's probably good that the mic was on mute for my last comment. But Robert, it's nice to see you. And I don't know if you have any headphones because we're hearing a little bit of an echo.
I could. Might take me a minute or two to get to them, but I think I can do this.
Okay, that would be great.
Let's see what we got.
And you guys, thanks out there for rolling with the punches.
Let's see.
So, okay, and thank you, Northern. He liked Mickey Mouse's voice. This is good. So, anything while Robert is getting set up, Scott, that you have to ask or anything, and any comments?
Yeah, I think we were going to go to the fact that a couple people have said that there's a lot of moving parts to make this happen. Ryan's gone into this, that there only needs to be a couple of things for parts to happen. Like he has said, if something went wrong, like, let's say one of the guys jumped out of the truck, well, obviously that would have destroyed the whole thing. But Ryan has gone into it before. So, Ryan, you want to say something about that?
Yeah, I've heard the moving parts from, I think it's just one YouTuber's page, but I mean, it's a point that I don't mind to discuss. The moving parts in this is literally for somebody to flip a light switch and for a vehicle to be parked in the right spot. That's it. There's been discussion of why didn't the guys get out of the truck? No matter if you want to believe in Gentry or if you'd like to believe in the alien theory, let's talk about the alien theory for a second of something they could not identify hovering above the tree line. So if we know the guys were terrified with something they couldn't identify, I don't find it unreasonable at all that they're not jumping out of the truck regardless. So this is a hard thing for me to understand. Maybe if it hasn't been phrased, and I have no idea. I don't understand why we're having conversations of guys getting in and out of trucks when we already know for fact that they didn't.
Right.
Absolutely. So Robert's coming back to us, I think, slowly but surely. We'll just see how this goes. And again, I want to say thanks, Trevor, Steve, all of you guys in chat. You guys have been this is such a great conversation. I'm really excited. And here we go. So
Okay,
Robert,
I think I'm here. I'm on the earphone now, and I hope you can hear me.
yes, we can.
Okay, great. Yeah, I wanted to say about we were talking about the Geraldo show, which I think was 1976 in New York City, and I was on there with not just Travis, but Jalen Hynek was on that one also, on that show.
And that is a really great interview. People can find that. We don't. It's probably a little bit too long to play, but that was interesting to see your questions and then the responses to that. So yeah, and I wanted to say, Skills Junior is asking. Obviously Ryan was planning to still do a film, but that is not the case, right, Ryan? This is something that is not happening.
Not at this time.
Okay. All right. Okay, so Robert, give us a little bit more information of how you first got involved with this, and I mean with Ryan, and then what led up to where we are now. Uh-oh. Well, Robert, I
No
think
go,
we're just,
Robert.
I know, I'm telling you. Well, uh,
Something?
Robert, there's got some serious issues. I don't know what's happening, but we will
Oh,
try to get that figured out. I don't know if you're on Wi-Fi or anything, but your connection is pretty uh, bad right at the moment. So anyway, we'll get back to you. Okay, Ryan, what else do you want to talk about? Because this has been, obviously, you had said, and I wanted to stress this again, when we first started the show, I
mm,
told everybody that you had said that you did not want to come on the show, that you were done after last week, and you and I have talked for hours and hours and hours since then. And, there were some questions that were coming up, and I wanted to make sure that you came back to address those issues because we
Sure.
watched in, the different podcasts that people obviously weren't watching what we put forward, and I admit it's a big chunk of of time
It
and
is.
things, but I think it's really, we need to just again hammer some of these finer points of what you're presenting home so people can start to do their own homework and put things together.
Yeah, I think out of respect for the people that sent you super chats, and thank you for the folks that are doing that to support Erica, because she's been supporting me on her channel now for 3 weeks. So let's go to those people first. I don't remember who they were, but Erica, why don't we talk to the super chat people first, just out of respect for their donation to you.
Yes, absolutely. And so I just want to say that JD Study UAP is just saying thanks for sharing the truth despite all the haters. And yes, there is a little group of haters. They just seem to be very loud. But, so yeah, thank you. Thank you for the kind
I can
comments
pull it
there.
up. I can pull it up here if you give me a second.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull it up.
No, I'm saying this question here that you put up. Do I
Okay.
have a photo of the vantage point of the
Yep.
truck?
Okay.
Yeah, if you give me a second here.
Sure. Thank you. And
You
I'm.
know, it's funny. I just saw a new video that was uploaded like within the last week, um, and it tells the story. It tells Travis' story, and I happened to be watching it today, and they said they said when he was found at the phone booth that his clothes were on backwards. So, so my point is that I'm trying to make is that this story constantly changes depending on who's telling it, depending on where it is. His clothes are on backwards. I mean,
But and that's the thing, we've seen these inconsistencies even in from the information that we've put forward. We've seen the way that the narrative has been spun, or people are putting out misinformation or
yeah,
disinformation about things, and so it is interesting to see all of that. So anyway, and Ryan, if you're looking for the photo, I'm assuming still.
Yeah,
Okay, wonderful.
I have
So
literally hundreds, and if not more. So
yeah,
give me a
absolutely.
second to find the right one.
Yeah, absolutely. Any
Why
more
don't we talk
comments?
about the Why don't we talk about the dogs while I do this, Scott? You want to talk about the dogs while I try to find this picture?
yes. So this has not only been brought up by some researchers that are veteran researchers. They're very respected in the community. And over the past couple of weeks, they've been brought up. One's on a podcast, and then the other one was on a series of short videos that this one researcher is now releasing. Um, and they both stated on both of these that they talked about the search dogs and how they came out and they couldn't find Travis. So, Ryan, you want to address that?
Well, okay, I will absolutely. I have it's actually a video of that perspective, and I have it ready here on the screen share. Okay, so this is a video. This is Rim Road here. If my mouse is showing, oops. Let's go back to where we were. This is Rim Road right here, and this sign I had pointed out when I had shown this footage last time that this sign is new. This Gentry LO. Anyhow, once you even at this, I'm gonna say, because I was out here with them. Let me because I drive my car up through here. I'm gonna say the angle is about right there. Is where that matches on the slide that I had showed when we started today. Gentry is going to be, if you can see my mouse, it's going to be about right here-ish. And even when you're this close, you can't see it at all. What you're going to see here is light. Oh, man. You're going to see light coming through the trees, glowing up, or making the trees glow. But this would be the perspective from the driver's side. Obviously, I'm driving here. Although I am pointing the camera, it's just my iPhone to be real, or to be honest. But I mean, that's pointed across the hood of my car. I think that's what you're asking me for right there. Can we verify there in the chat that that's what he's looking for?
No, actually, he said there was a misunderstanding that he meant the viewpoint from the claimed abduction location up the hill.
Oh, that's possible too. All right, let me go find that. Keep talking about dogs.
No, and I want to just say thank you. Charlie Weiser is in chat, and again, Trevor, Steve, thank you for all of this. So I appreciate you guys, and we will get to your questions. And so, if you, Scott, can you think of anything else? And I want to just say that there, yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at chat, just going, wow, this is so cool. This is real. This is positive and productive, and I will say this is really awesome.
Much better than last time. So the dog situation, a lot of people, are getting that confused because in the movie, they sent out teams of dogs along with the guys that were on horseback. Travis states in 2 different locations in the book, Fire in the Sky, that Mike was requesting that they use dogs. And I think on one page, it says that he was frustrated because they hadn't used dogs. And then on the second page, that it was too late for them to bring in bloodhounds or search dogs. So, it's part of the mythology that's been taken from this movie and added to the real story. And there are absolutely no records of dogs being used. It was only in the film.
Right, and I want to say that I think Travis has gone on record many times talking about the inaccuracies in are you talking about Fire in the Sky or the documentary?
Fire in the Sky.
Yeah, so I think he has gone on record a lot of times.
Okay, I'm ready.
Talking about the fact that there were things that were Hollywoodized in that, but that is an important detail. And so Ryan, we're going to get back to you. Robert, we'll get to you here in a minute, hopefully. So
okay, so this is the best that I can show here, and I have to be so careful not to move my mouse because there's people just off to the left here that I don't want to be on camera. So this is going to be tricky. But what I want to show you here, can you see my mouse moving?
Mm-mm.
No. Okay. I'm really nervous for this to advance because you saw that was just happening there. Okay, can you see just straight in, like, picture middle? Can you see a log there?
Yes.
On the ground?
Yes.
Okay. Can you see how there's an incline to the left?
Yes.
Picture left?
Mm-hmm.
Where I'm standing is on the old logging road, right here. You can see new growth, saplings there. This is the best that I can show. This I can show that the incline there, so you can see how steep that is from the road, and that goes up from the about 100 yards ish, 300 feet at that same incline. So it's very steep. But that is the best. I didn't spend a lot of time filming the public abduction site because that wasn't the direction we were going with the film.
Okay.
But this is the best that I can offer there. And this was shot, according to the top everybody can see, May 4, 2021, so not that long ago.
Great. Okay, and I'm gonna see if we can add Robert back in, since we're not going to the 4-hour mark tonight.
No. Yeah.
Okay, Robert,
Okay.
are you there? Oh,
I'm here. Can you hear me?
mother of pearl. Yes.
All
It's
right.
a
Well,
miracle.
yeah, okay. This thing had a mic. I was headed on automatic mic adjustment, and maybe that wasn't going to work. So then I boosted it up to the top. So maybe you can hear me now.
Yes, we can. You said good.
Okay, great. Well, what I was going to say was I've been involved in this case and in many other cases for a very long time. I used to work very closely with Philip J. Klass, who I realize some people have a very negative opinion of him, but he was a good researcher. He was a difficult guy to deal with in many ways, but he was like a bloodhound. He was the guy, for example, who found out about that McCarthy test, because we saw McCarthy earlier talk about the polygraph, paid for by the National Enquirer, and given also sort of under the auspices of APRO, and Jim Lorenzen was there. Well, APRO colluded with the National Enquirer to keep this failed polygraph test secret so that nobody knew anything about it until they could arrange another test. And then the second one was more successful. But as we said, they were dictating the questions and so on. We mentioned, or Ryan mentioned that I was on Geraldo's show. This was way back, I think it was 1976 in New York City. And it was, Travis was there and also J. Allen Hynek. So this was an interesting situation. Hynek was kind of non-committal about the thing. I don't think he ever strongly endorsed the case, but I don't think he ever said he thought it was a hoax either. And then more recently, Ryan contacted me. He was working on these things, and we talked. I shared with him pretty much all the information that I have and that I gathered over the years, and then I learned what he had learned. I've never been to that spot. I mean, I've been to Phoenix, in fact, to Fort McDowell in Arizona, which, and Erica, I know you've been there too, when they had the UFO Congress at that place.
Right.
And this is still, what, 100 miles or something from Snowflake and Heber and the Gentry Tower and all that. So I've never been out to the forest there. And it wasn't even until just recently of talking with Ryan and seeing his charts that I really had a good idea of the geography of where these roads are, where the work site is, where Heber is, where the roads are, and so on. Unless you understand that, you can't really figure out what's happening. And I appreciate Ryan's patience explaining all this to me, but I finally think I understand it now.
And that's great. Thank you for adding that. And Ryan has had the patience of Job, I will say. I mean, just to go over this over and over, and we have spent, like I have mentioned, we've spent a lot of time on the phone in the past 3 weeks, and Ryan has been very great with providing information, more information than I've seen put forward, and I know that there are allegations that he is a spy, the new Men in Black, but you're in a
No, that's
baseball
Charlie
hat.
Weiser who's the spy.
Okay,
She's
well, I thought that everybody was.
he's Boris and she's Natasha.
Okay, well, I mean, I will admit I am in the dark cabal, so I guess if you guys are, whatever we are, secret agents, that's what happens. But it has been interesting to see some of the comments that have been, coming forward, and some of the accusations and things. And I know that Byron is in chat, and he is just here for a brief time, but he was asking us to kind of put in a little nutshell what had happened on some of the podcasts in the past little bit. And I know that there was a podcast on a particular show that I'm sure we could figure out where they did not ask any hard questions. It was more kind of a pat on the back and a show of camaraderie, and
Oh, yes.
also a little bit of nastiness directed towards
Oh,
us.
I just put I just released my blog earlier, just before the show started. And the most on bad UFOs, you go to www.badufos.com to see the latest one. And that one is titled Travis Walton, The Empire Strikes Back. Because that's essentially what's happening here. Is they're all let's gather the forces together. Let's defend Travis Walton. And so I give a summary of what's been said on all these shows, and also the links if anybody wants to go there and listen to it. I understand that Jimmy Church might have his behind a paywall now. I can't imagine why anybody would pay to hear that rubbish, but.
Well, it has been interesting, but again, that's the UFO community. And it's funny because I have talked to some of my friends who are in the UFO community, and they just are shaking their heads because there are good people here. But I want Vincent Palmer. I just want to say, Vincent, thank you for your great comments. And I've been noticing some of the things that you're saying. So it's really great. And Lou, thanks for being here tonight. Timmy, thank you. All of you guys, such great comments. I'm super stoked. This is really positive, I think. I mean, this is not bashing anybody. And I want to say, Ryan, because we're getting ready to close the show, I mean, what are your final thoughts on this? Do you anticipate that you'll be talking to Travis again or Mike again?
I think by now everybody's heard my last phone call with Travis, and it was a great call. He was very complimentary of me. He said he had watched your show. He appreciated me defending him if people were trying to come after him. I don't know. I think Mike Rogers has lost his credibility completely, which is sad.
Yeah, I think that's the one thing everybody can agree on at this point, really, seriously.
Yeah. I think that if Travis were to contact me, I thoroughly enjoy him. I have never spoken badly about him. And I'd be happy to continue on where we left off.
And I think that's great. You have always expressed, I mean, since you first came on the show, you've always expressed a fondness for him. You were just presenting a story. And so it's not these vicious attacks. It's your presentation. And so Ryan, thank you for that and putting all of this forward. I think this is a really important learning moment for this subject, for the field, and for new people that are coming in to the topic, because there's so many podcasts or shows on YouTube where a lot of people aren't really grounded or have a knowledge of the subject historically. And so this is really important to put information like this forward and to ask the younger generation to really think critically about the information that they're being presented, because there's a lot of potential to go down a very dark hole, and we need to move this subject forward in a positive and truthful manner. So thank you all for your great input on this. So Scott, any additional thoughts before we wrap up the show tonight?
Yeah, I just want to say that first I want to thank everybody for coming, and I just want to say that people out there in the UFO community, they have to separate the fact that we're not attacking people. We're looking at evidence and we're presenting it, and that's all we're doing. We're questioning the evidence. We're looking at it. We're looking at new stuff that Ryan has brought to us. We're not personally attacking Travis or Mike. That's not what we're doing, and we're not trying to disparage them.
And let me just say, though, and thank you for the nice.
Okay.
Oh, I love those little comments in the background. That shows us you're living, Robert.
Yeah.
But there is Skills Junior asked a question, which I think
Sure.
is a great question. We're saying we're not bagging on these individuals, but yet you're coming out and saying that his story isn't truthful, and so how what are your thoughts on that?
About me and Travis?
Just about that, we're saying we're here and we're saying that we're not disparaging him, but yet
I can see his question here.
Okay.
But Ryan's saying he's a hoaxer who's I've never said that. In fact, on a different show last night from the UK that I spoke on very briefly, they had said Travis hoaxing, and I very swiftly corrected them.
Thank you.
I have never said that. Skills.
Okay, thank you. So I appreciate everything. I mean, Ryan, your final thoughts on this? Are you tired? Are you relieved? What are you going to do next? Just give us the rundown, because this has been pretty tumultuous.
Last week I was in Socorro, and now
dun, dun, dun.
Here we go.
Oh boy, Mamma Mia!
And right now I'm pretty close to Roswell, so.
Oh no.
Okay, well I got to rest up, boys, because I'm telling you,
Yeah, that biggie.
But
Mama's getting old here.
Here, has anybody seen that Roswell film, by the way, called The Final Stand or The Final Chapter or something
Was
like
it a
that? That
TV
was just
show?
came out. Yeah, it was
Yeah,
like
no.
a 6-part series.
I haven't seen it.
How do
I
you
know.
people believe in that stuff? You realize that they're going on there with this alleged artificial intelligence, where the guy who developed that software was so infuriated with them using it like that he did an interview on Wall Street Journal. They're literally pointing a camera at a TV screen that's supposed to read facial recognition
Well,
of footage from like 1950. And
let me-
it's like this. This is how. Hold on one second, if that's
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Like Robert, I'm going to do a little role play here with Robert. Hey, Robert.
Yeah.
Earlier today, I haven't told you yet that I was outside taking my dogs for a walk, and I saw what appeared to be a dragon, and it was flying through the mountains here by Roswell, and but I don't want to talk about it anymore. So if you want to go on this artificial intelligence thing, and if you can testify to that, that will make it real, according to this Area 51. That means dragons are real.
Yeah, it's a little special. I dare to dream. I don't know. But it did take me a long time to admit Santa Claus wasn't real, but that's another story. That'll be a different show, maybe. Or,
Anyway.
private talk from my therapist. But I think I want to go back to, Brian, because this is a continual theme here for the last little bit. So people are confused that you're saying, that you're not coming out and saying Travis is a hoaxer, but you are, you are making claims about the veracity of what he's put forward for 45 years.
I think I've made myself really clear with my opinion on that on multiple shows. This started off as a reward on a tabloid magazine that spiraled. It included his family and included people that were very close to him. And it's one thing if somebody comes out and says, "Hey, let's hoax," but it's another if you go with a circus magazine that put out $100,000 reward for a great story, and he wanted to submit a story. I don't see them as the same. Now, I do realize that after that, there's a time where things could change for people. Like you ask, when could you have done a U-turn with the story? But the truth is, by the time that Travis had come back, and anybody can read this in the MUFON report, by the time that he had come back, Dwayne, his older brother, had been spinning this story, building this story up. His stepbrother, Ralph Anderson, is calling in to Newfork and said, "Hey, have you all heard about this? Like this UFO, and it's all over the news." By the time he came back, things had grown to such a place. He has his mother on record. When do you do a U-turn? When is the proper time to do a U-turn with this story?
Right.
Was it on Geraldo with Shaeffer? I have no idea. But it's one thing to plot and have a very vengeful thing against humanity, and it's another to mess around with a tabloid magazine.
Well,
Absolutely.
but one kind of leads to the other, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Once you start the story, then it's very hard to get off the train, so to speak. Once the train picks up speed.
That's right.
Well, I think it'll be interesting to see what happens. And again, we're getting close to show close this evening. And this is right here. Here's another miracle. We've had several miracles tonight. Robert's audio and video. And then we've got the fact that we're actually going to end the show on time.
It feels like we just started.
I know. This is crazy. Maybe I just need to switch to the 4-hour show format because, I mean, honestly, I really do love this subject so much, and as does my...
Is there any questions here that we can answer from anybody else before we? Looks like we've got about 8 minutes left, and I'm not sure what Erica's doing over there, but she's got her mic on mute. That's for sure.
We had a little cat moment there. I'm telling you, it's
no problem.
Okay, yeah. So anyway, Scott, closing thoughts there. I'm trying to avoid a catastrophe here with certain people on.
A catastrophe.
Exactly.
I'm just, I mean, like you, Erica, and a lot of people out there that are either listening or going to listen to this. The veracity of this case, I mean, the validity of it was something for me that, I thought it was solid. I mean, and especially based on, the 5 witnesses and, when Ryan came to us, it just taught me a bunch of different things about, he really taught me about looking deeper, and looking at details, and I don't think after this that I'm ever going to let that happen again. So.
That's great. Peter, what are your closing thoughts on all of this? And thank you for being here and just giving us your perspective as somebody who listens to the show, somebody who's been on the show. What are your final thoughts? Words of wisdom.
Well, I think the question is still could be just in general is there validity to alien abduction? I'm still interested in finding that out. And there's so many cases that we need to investigate. So I think that's important to still pursue alien abduction. Perhaps there's another case that has better evidence, more possibility of being the real deal. So I think we should just carry on. And like I said before, I'm convinced the reality of the UFO phenomena. I'm a little bit on the fence with the abduction part. And I just am generally very impressed with what's happened in the last couple of weeks. I really want to say, Erica, you're the person with the guts. The guts, the real guts in the UFO community now. And Ryan, you have a lot of guts too. And I'm just so impressed with what you've done. And you've dared the UFO religion and all the taboos, don't shake rock the boat. And I commend you for what you've been doing.
Thank you. That means a lot to me, Peter, and I'm sure it does to Ryan as well, and Scott. And I mean that thank you, because it has been it's been an interesting road the past 3 weeks, and thank you, Peter. And
Robert Shaeffer threatened me.
Oh, well.
Well, you want me to threaten you?
He said he was going to come beat me up.
Oh, I did?
Oh dear.
I'm
No,
just kidding. Robert's got one of the most addicting laughs, so I'd like to say bizarre things just to hear him
all
laugh.
right, well, let's, that's
Well,
good.
and I will say that I have had Robert on the show, and this has been when I need to have you back, Robert. But this was like what, a year and a half ago, and I had you close the show by singing us a song,
Oh, yeah.
which I will say
Yeah.
your voice is absolutely beautiful.
You mean like
Stunning.
in La donna immobile, quale più malavento? Like that, you mean?
Yep, exactly, exactly. Very well done, amazing. That's fun, and
Anyhow,
you're actually going to be performing soon. So tell everybody where you're performing.
Yeah, well, we're going to be doing Die Fledermaus, which is a comic opera in Escondido, California, in October, and called the Pacific Lyric Association. I think if you just look up Fledermaus, a German word, of course, the bat is the name of it, but it's a comedy. It's a sparkling comedy. Johann Strauss Jr. in Escondido, California.
Good, awesome. Thank you, and thank all of you guys very much. I want to give a big shout out to everybody in chat. This has been, if we can continue to have the dialogue that we had tonight on the show, I think that we are really moving in a great direction. This has been respectful, and we are asking critical questions. So congratulations to all of us, because all of us are here together, and we're gonna do this. Come hell or high water, boys. What do you think?
Right.
And thanks, So anyway, thank you all very much. And so, yeah, we will get Robert back on the show. It's always fun to have him on, and we'll have him actually maybe sing a little bit longer. That would be great. But
All right, yeah.
Ryan, thank you. What are you going to do now? You're going to Socorro? Or back, if you're going to, I don't know what's going to happen. We'll stay tuned
know.
for part 4.
all
But
right.
thank you. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Absolutely.
Thank you to everybody that watched.
Thank you very, very much,
you.
you guys. Really
Bye.
positive. I hope you guys have a
Thank you,
wonderful
Erica, Ryan,
weekend. Thank
Robert,
you. Yeah, absolutely, you
Bye.
guys. And thanks, Mario,
Bye-bye.
for being here. And we will catch you guys next week. And next week, actually, Scott, do you want to give a little preview, or are we going to keep that one on the down low? Because this is going to be good.
It's I don't want to say anything yet. I don't want to jinx it, but if it happens, it's going to be very groundbreaking. So
I know, I'm so excited for you. Good job. Kick butt. All right, you guys. Take care, and we will catch you guys next week. Thank you. Bye, Ryan.